We're all set.
Yes. Okay. So where was I?
So if I wanted to, or anyone
Oh,
listening
yes. I remember now.
wants to start a
Okay.
cleanse in the new year, and this is all new to them, and but they know it's time to refresh and lighten their lifestyle up. How do you suggest they structure their breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a light cleanse?
Well, that's a pretty good one. So there are two ways people can do it. Luckily, every change for the positive is a cleansing change, whether it's not drinking soda or even adding one extra glass of water. So if somebody wants to do something really simple, just simply making a better choice for yourself every day, whether it's, you could pick the fruit or the chips, go for the fruit. You know, that alone is simple enough. But if you want to really dive into a light cleanse, the best way to structure one's day is based on food combinations. So that's digesting foods that digest at the same rate of time and with the same enzymes. And what that's going to do is it's going to speed up your metabolism. So the simple act of speeding up the metabolism will help the body cleanse because there won't be as much of a lag time during digestion. And that metabolic rate is really the difference between people who can eat chips and soda and feel great and people who eat one piece of bread and get bloated and sick for a week. It's how quickly their metabolism can put everything off. So by speeding that up, you're going to cleanse. So I would start every morning with a juice or some tea or fruit. If you're going to do coffee, try and stay away from the cow dairy. Go towards like sheep or goat dairy or even an almond milk. And then if you do have any regular animal products in the morning, just make sure they're full fat. So full fat cream in the coffee. If you're going to eat an egg, don't do an egg white, do the whole thing. Just eat whole ingredients and stay away from anything that's reduced fat or reduced calories or sugar free. Because anytime you remove fat from a product, they have to put chemicals into it to restabilize it because fat is actually a natural food preservative and stabilizer. You will not lose weight by eating sugar free. You'll just gain weight. So that's one way. I would then have like a simple smoothie. So, and by smoothie, I don't mean the entire kitchen sink and whatever sitting in your pantry thrown into a blender because all that's going to do is make you bloated. A fruit smoothie should be simply fruit and a little bit of a liquid. So what I like to do is I'll do like a banana, date, cashew butter. That one's on my blog. You don't even need a recipe for that. It's just simply frozen bananas, a couple of dates, a scoop of almond butter, and some coconut water. That's a really great way. Another really good smoothie you could do, like if you're like us and lucky enough to live in a warm climate, you could do a Thai coconut smoothie. So simply taking the meat of some coconuts and coconut water and blending that. It's essentially the coconut is the same as our blood plasma. So, and it's full of healthy fats and not a lot of sugar, but it tastes like vanilla milkshake. So just doing that even a couple of days a week would be really helpful. Lunch, you can eat your normal lunch, but just start with salad. Salad acts like a broom. It literally is like the tugboat that pulls the big ships through the harbor. What it's going to do is it will kind of act like a broom and sweep the walls of the intestine to get rid of old waste and make room for the new food to come through. And it will also physically widen the intestine because of all the fiber. So we'll literally clear a path for those heavier meals. So, even if you're going to have steak tacos, have a salad first. It's not that hard. That's a great way to go. And if you really are ambitious, you can keep your starches and your proteins separate. So eating a starch-based lunch would be sweet potatoes, corn, any cooked starchy vegetable, grains, so farro, quinoa, buckwheat, brown rice. So plant-based starchy lunch, legumes. And then for dinner, wait 4 hours. And again, start with a fresh salad. And if that point you're lettuced out, you could even just have a handful of cherry tomatoes. Any kind of raw vegetable is going to do the same job of pushing the waste through and opening the intestine. And that's when you would have your protein meal. So salmon, chicken, fish, anything like that, accompanied by a low starch vegetable. So zucchini, broccoli, cauliflower, green beans, sauces that are, cream based are fine, or butter based, or even a tomato sauce is good. And then pairing that with like a light dessert, like dark chocolate or like a chai tea sweetened with a little bit of stevia in the raw, or monk fruit sugar, or even real sugar. Doing that, that's a very cleansing diet. You'll definitely feel a difference.
So you've lived in climates that have the four seasons, and now you live in a climate that's traditionally warm all the time.
Mhm.
Do how did you consistently drink a green juice in the morning in the winter time when it was really cold outside? How were you able to still crave that or want to make that in the morning when it's, super cold and frigid outside? Did you ever have a problem doing that, or has it
Oh,
always just come easy to you?
no, it's harder. It's
Okay.
definitely hard to drink. I mean, because foods can be yin or yang in acupuncture. I mean, sorry, I can't even speak anymore. Chinese medicine. So, like when we're cold, we want more yang foods that tend to like stick to our bones. So
Yeah.
meat, cheese, you know, soups, cooked foods. Whereas like the raw foods and the plants, the yin, they're cleansing. So they strip the body. So they make you colder. So it's definitely harder to eat a very yin diet when you're living in a cold environment. So what I would do is I would just make more like yang foods or warming foods that stuck around longer. So I made lots of soups, roasted root vegetables. My juices were not as green. Here in Florida, like I'll throw pineapple, apple, tons of greens. My juices are always green; they're never brown. But in the winter in Florida, in New Jersey and New York, I drank a lot of carrot juice in the winter. So like carrot celery, carrot romaine lettuce, carrot beet. You don't want too much carrot in the juice, but I usually would use a base of like 1/3 to 50% of the juice being a root vegetable. And I'd even throw some warming herbs in there. Like I'd put pumpkin pie spice and cayenne pepper in my carrot juice with some ginger. And I would never drink it cold. I would always juice that stuff warm, like room temperature. And if I went to a juice bar and got it, I would kind of just like leave it out for a little while until it at least went to room temperature and drink it. Because if I drank, I'm sure this happens to anybody, but if you drink like a cold green juice in a cold environment, it just it just kind of freezes you over. You get cold and like nothing will bring you back. Um, Another thing I would do if it's like really cold or if I had to go outside, I would, skip the juice or have the juice later and start my day with like miso soup. The miso soup that Elliot taught us in school, I make that all the time. And that's a great breakfast to have in cold weather. It's still cleansing and supportive, but it's warming and it just makes you feel better.
Yeah, the ginger idea in the juice in the morning is brilliant. I think I'm going to start to incorporate that. I don't know why I didn't think about that. That's really smart to do since ginger is so naturally warming.
Yeah, you
Brilliant.
could even throw a little turmeric in if you have it.
Oh, yeah. And that's easy to get. Thank you.
No
That's really
problem.
helpful. Do you have a favorite juicer? Any that
To
you
be
recommend?
honest, I know there's so many better juicers out there, but I really like the Breville. I've been using it for years. It's just easy. I'm lazy. I don't like to wait for juice to masticate, even though that's better. I can't sit and stare at a juicer for 45 minutes. I don't have the time. I don't have the patience. So I like the Breville because you don't have to cut anything. It's got a big wide mouth and you just zip everything through. And I literally line the juicer bit pulp for the pulp with a bag and I just chuck the bag. Again, I know it's not the most environmentally friendly, it's not the best juice, but as long as you're drinking juice that's been made through a centrifugal juicer right away, it's still very good. If anything, I would say a juice made that way instead of being pressed is better if drink because you drink it right away. Whereas if you go to a juice bar and they do all the pressed juices, those things can be sitting on the shelf for 3 days before you even drink it. And most companies dilute them with water anyway, or even cold pasteurize them. So I just say get a cheap Breville juicer. It's like $100. It's small, it sits on the counter. It's the best thing.
So after culinary school, when I moved back to California, I worked at a juice bar because I just wanted to see how it really worked.
Hmm.
And I went and worked at a juice bar that they cold pressed their juice, and they absolutely let their juice sit on the shelf for 7 days. So people were buying 7-day-old juice.
Yeah,
And
for like
that,
$12.
yeah, and that's not going to provide you really any benefits. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I really always try to suggest to people that they either need to make it fresh themselves or they need to go get it fresh. Like the last thing they need is something that's sealed in a plastic, container and sitting on a refrigerated shelf for 7 days. That's not
Oh
going
yeah.
to provide
Not
you
gonna,
with what you're really looking for.
it's better than nothing, but it's just simply not worth the money you're spending on it most of the time. Like I'd rather just not juice and spend the $24 on something that I know is, so old that all the enzymes and vitamins are dead.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not proud, I'll still drink it, but when you see the trendy juice bar with the pressed juice, like go the other way and just go to the deli that makes it fresh.
I completely agree. I'm on the same wavelength. So I'm glad that's what you recommend as well.
Yeah, it's just common sense. Why eat something old when you can have something fresh?
Who are your cleanse mentors? So where did you start to learn this information from?
Well, I started to learn from Natalia Rose because when I was sick, I read one of her books and then saw her as a client. But then she sent me to Gil Jacobs, and I would say he was my big mentor because I saw him for colonics up to every 5 days for years.
Wow.
And then after I started getting better, I worked for him for a year and we became great friends. So I was really lucky to learn from the master himself, who also taught Natalia. But I also thank Natalia for, breaking everything down into something that felt relatable and usable to an average American girl. Whereas, Gil's like very radical and hippie-ish. And I think as like a teenager, it would have been harder for me to like find him, because I mean the guy at that point only operated his business with a phone line. Like if you did not have his phone number, you weren't getting treatments. Like so it was a very much like a niche in the know type of thing. And so I was very lucky to be connected with him, and I could easily say he saved my life. So I would say he was my big mentor, and Natalia really made it relatable.
Well, thanks to you, I had the pleasure of meeting him. And when I was,
remember that.
yeah, I had the best time meeting him. And he had shared with me one of the things that he recommends for clients that need to kind of lose weight in 2 weeks, or just lighten things up quickly, or they just need a jump start, and then to just move into a more relaxed cleansing lifestyle. He recommended juicing in the morning, having a big bowl of fruit for lunch, and then a healthy salad and light protein for dinner. Since you worked for him, have you heard this before? And what do you think about that?
Well, I've heard that before, and that's exactly what I recommend to clients, but it makes perfect sense, I think, because Gil wants the lifestyle to be easy for people, which is kind of hard considering how extreme his own lifestyle can be. So I think that he finds that he can help women stick to this and really achieve their goal by giving them something applicable and easy, which really, like, women love salad. We do best with greens and protein. So as long as we're creating that time in the morning, to give our body some time to cleanse, unless you're laden with, bacteria and fungus, the fruit will work, especially the low glycemic fruit like berries and all the keto friendly fruits. So yeah, I think he basically says stick with an alkaline keto diet, which is super helpful, and it works. I mean, I've had hundreds of clients and most of them will lose a couple of pounds in a couple of weeks, even if it's water and waste. They'll overall look a little bit tighter and feel better.
So what are some of those winter keto fruits that you recommend?
Well, I really like pomegranates. I mean, I could eat like 17 of those in a sitting. I just absolutely love them. So pomegranates would be one.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously citrus is winter, but it's really not low sugar.
Mm-hmm.
But you could totally enjoy, a couple of clementines. I think you don't really need to limit the fruit sugar if you are not yeasted, because fruit sugar is very cleansing. Like, it moves through the body quickly. It's a carbohydrate. So it's not necessarily keto, but it's the best thing to give you energy, provide nutrients and hydration all at the same time. And if you think about it, fruit really is the perfect food for humans. Falls off the tree when it's ripe. It sits in the palm of your hand and you can eat the whole thing. I mean, we really were designed to eat fruit. You know, fruit has gotten a bad rep these days, but the
Mhm.
fruit's not bad. It's the system you're putting it in. If you're putting it in a system that has pathogens that survive off of sugar, if you feed them, they're gonna get stronger. So, you know, just you just have to kind of fumigate and exterminate all of those nasty buggers living in your intestine, and then you can eat fruit.
How do you know if you're yeasty? You know?
You know, it's hard because literally every symptom under the sun is a symptom of candida, but chances are, if you're a woman living in modern society, you have it. One telltale sign is if you've had multiple yeast infections, vaginal yeast infections, then you definitely have candida, because people associate yeast with vaginal infections. But the truth is that yeast is a intestinal infection. When the body becomes so overridden by yeast, that yeast gets into the bloodstream and then it gets deposited to other warm areas of the body, like the armpits, vaginal canal, for men, testes. So that's when you'll see it. Also, skin disruptions. So lots of pimples, eczema, itchy red skin. That's a sign of candida, because again, it's up of the body pushing that candida up through the skin, and it angers the skin on its way out. Another symptom, if you can't eat fruit or bread, that's a telltale sign. If you can't leave those things alone, like if you feel like there's an otherworldly craving intensity for carbs and sugar, chances are you're yeasted. So if you can't leave the bread basket alone, you go out to eat, um, yeah, you probably have it. Another sign would be if you can't digest it. So if you eat anything with sugar or bread and you get extremely bloated right away, that's a sign too, because the yeast have a feeding frenzy when you put that sugar in. And you know, if you've ever made bread, you know that when you put sugar and yeast together, they start eating and everything
Mhm.
starts getting fizzy. The same thing happens in the intestine. So if you have to take a nap and have to unbutton your pants after eating a bowl of fruit, chances are, yeah, you've got some yeast. But it's no big deal. Everybody gets it. It's easy to, it's not easy, but you can kill it and it doesn't take that long. Just kind of have to get it under control. You'll never fully get rid of it.
Yeah, you're a gut health expert. How do you recommend when someone's noticing those symptoms that they edit their diet so they can kill off the excess amount of yeast?
Well, the easiest way to kill off yeast is to cut off its food source. You kind of have to starve it out. So starving it out would be taking away its food, which is sugar. So unfortunately, sugars and grains have to go. There's other minor foods that feed yeast, like they really like vinegar. So if you want to get strict, you could eliminate vinegars. But the truth is, an alkaline keto diet is the easiest way to kill yeast. And you can support that cleansing through certain supplements. Like I really like Candex or Candy Gun because it kills the yeast without causing die-off symptoms. Because again, yeast, they're really hard to kill because the second they feel distress, they release endotoxins that stimulate your brain to crave their food source. So it just, the second they start to die, you feel like those cravings for sugar just come back harder and harder. So it really is a battle of the wills. But one thing I like to do is take the Candex, and what it does is it erodes the cellular wall of the yeast so that they die without having time to release the endotoxin. So that's one thing that helps. Hydrogen peroxide therapy is a really good one, drinking peroxide. But again, I say that with a grain of salt because you have to be very careful. You have to put in only 1 drop for every 2 ounces of water. And you can work your way up to 52 drops, but that's a lot of water. And you can seriously hurt yourself if you don't follow that ratio properly, especially with food grade peroxide, since it has such a high percentage of oxygen in it. You can ulcerate the intestine. So that's something I would do only if you're really paying attention and maybe under somebody else's care. But you really can't go wrong with that. Another easy, cheap way to go is just swallowing a garlic clove. You know, garlic kills parasites, including yeast. So obviously, if you chew it, not only will your breath stink, but you'll have digested it before it gets to the colon. But if you swallow it, then it will stay whole and sit in the intestine. So anything for the 24 hours that it comes into contact while it's in there will die. So, you know, a lot of parasites have a 30-day gestation period. So if you swallow garlic every day for 30 days, you can kill the eggs as they hatch.
Amazing. How many garlic cloves should you swallow a day?
One, and cut it up. And I don't want anybody choking, so you could swallow a clove that's a reasonable size, but anything bigger than, the size of a piece of corn will not be fully broken down.
Got it. And should you have that with your green juice in the morning? Should you have it with lunch, dinner? Does it matter?
Doesn't matter as long as it gets there.
Could you be doing this with the garlic clove to kill the yeast and be eating juice in the morning, fruit for lunch, and a healthy dinner of vegetables and protein? Or should you eliminate the fruit?
Most of the time you need to eliminate the fruit. But again, do as much as you can. If you're and think about the perspective. If you're going from eating sugar at every meal to only eating, a bowl of low sugar fruits a day,
yeah,
you probably will still kill yeast, but you will never fully eliminate them as long as there's sugar in the diet. So my rule of thumb is usually to eliminate the fruit for 4 weeks.
Oh, wow. Got it.
So
these are great tips. Like you're motivating me to do a nice little kickstart after I'm done cooking for the holiday season.
Oh, same. I'm again, I live in Florida now and it's so social down here. I'm always going out to eat the second I think my schedule is clear, another dinner or something props up. So, and because I don't have a colonic unit in my house right now, I'm building it. I'm not doing them as often. So I'm feeling it too. And I'm right there with you.
Yeah, well, I'm ready to kick things off in the new year. But I'd love to know, since you're a gut health expert and you're a chef, what are some easy to digest foods we can prepare during the winter time in the colder months? Is there anything in particular you like to cook this time of year?
Soups. That's one thing that sucks about living in the warm environment. I just want to eat soup all the time. And it's not cold out. There's no snow, so it's not as cozy. But any kind of vegetable, dairy-free soup is going to be great. Obviously, so I have a ton on my blog, and so do you, Whitney. Sweet potato soup, pumpkin soup, pea soup, any kind, carrot soup, carrot ginger soup.
I love a carrot ginger sweet potato soup. Pureed. I've been making a lot of pureed soups for my clients, and it's kind of been life-changing.
It is.
I absolutely love it. And sometimes I do a vegetable pureed soup. And then I have a little Japanese yam or sweet potato on the side. And it's so good. I'm really into doing bone broth, yellow onion, garlic, and then pick your green vegetable, whether it's asparagus, broccoli, zucchini, simmer that all together, puree it. And then I have a little Japanese yam on the side. And I put my healthy fat on the Japanese yam, so the fat was never cooked. So maybe that's a little ghee or a little olive oil. And it's the nicest dinner. And I think of you often when I have a meal like that. I'm like, oh, Maren would be so proud. This is so balanced.
I'm proud and jealous. I want that meal. It sounds perfect. So yeah, that's my favorite thing for dinner in the winter is soup and a starchy vegetable with some fat, exactly like that. I'll put on salted butter, ghee on a sweet potato and have an avocado and call it a day. I mean, what could be better? So I think the soups, it actually reminds me when I had my practice in Park Slope, there was the soup shop and they only opened up in the winter and they had a lot of vegan pureed soups and everything was $5. So you could get a quart of soup for $5. And I would go there and get 3 different kinds of soups a day and have one for lunch and one for dinner and one for a snack and after my juice. And sometimes this is a trick that I forgot. My office was always really cold because it was a ground floor in Brooklyn, but I would have a juice and then as soon as it digested, 10 or 15 minutes later, I'd have soup. So I would just get the juice in and then warm right up with the soup afterwards. So that's exactly what I'd recommend. Another way is cook warm salads. Or a wilted salad. That was something we learned about in school.
Yeah, I used to make that all the time back in the day.
Love it. I still I miss them. I haven't made them in a while, but they're the best. Just taking your greens and warming up in a skillet before you eat them. It's so your diet can still be cleansing even if it's cooked.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're breaking down different cellular walls and pulling different nutrients out of the vegetable, and your body will
Yeah.
recognize it a little bit differently when you digest it. It is really fascinating um, reading the research about the different benefits you get from a juiced or raw carrot versus a roasted cooked carrot.
Yeah. I mean, I really think that the benefit of raw foods is entirely in the juice because, you know, the body has to break down the food and our intestines heat things up. So we're losing enzymes anyway when we're eating some raw foods. Again, I love me some raw food and I'd be a full raw foodist if I had 18 hours a day to sprout and dehydrate everything. But
Yeah.
you can get just as much benefit from something cooked, especially if you're somebody with, you know, IBS or constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, celiac disease, Crohn's, colitis. Any kind of inflammatory condition will benefit more from a cooked, softer vegetable than a raw one. So that way you can eat a vegetable without aggravating the system.
What do you think of lentils, split pea soup, any type of legume? Are you a fan of them if they're soaked and washed and prepared properly,
Yeah,
or do you try to stay
yeah.
away? Okay.
You know, I'm a fan. I think if you, so my whole mentality is we need to eat a diet that's as clean as it needs to be, no cleaner. So, you know, we're put on this planet to enjoy our lives, not to, you know, nobody's winning $1 million for not eating legumes and saying no to everything and not even drinking tea and only drinking hot water because they're a raw foodist. I mean, I would have won that $1 million already. It has not come. So I think that if you can digest legumes, then by all means go for it. I think they're easiest to digest when they're in a soup because they've been cooked down and they're in a lot of liquid. But they are naturally miscombined. They're half protein, half starch. So naturally they will cause gas and they'll take a little longer to digest. Just if you're going to eat it in a vegan meal or a starch-based meal with some fats. Don't, you know, don't pile on your split pea soup with a piece of chicken. It'll make it harder. But you just kind of have to eat it and be your own judge. Like I know that I can handle it if I'm good. If I'm a little bit constipated and I haven't been that good, eating a lentil soup will make me feel like I could fall through the floorboards. But if I'm in a good place, I could digest it and it's like warming and filling and great.
That's super helpful. Thank you for sharing that with me. Because sometimes I think we've all read so much information, we can get
Crazy.
yeah, you can get crazy. You can just spin down the rabbit hole. And then you can get paranoid of food that really is good for you. You know, if
Yeah.
again, prepared properly and enjoyed in moderation.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is all food is bad for you because food doesn't want to be eaten.
That's so true. And so it all has mechanisms to protect itself from you trying not to eat it, meaning it can cause gas or digestive disorders and a variety of different things.
Even plants don't want to be eaten, so they have lectins and other things that irritate the people who come around and eat them in hopes that they will stop. It's just nature. You know, it's a matter of which irritants we can handle and which ones we can't. If you try to avoid irritants, you'll just starve to death. So you kind of just have to like use your brain and figure out what works for you and try not to get too nuts.
Yeah. So what do you think, since we learned this in culinary school, and this is in tons of, you know, old school health supportive books, the concept of not eating lectins or nightshades. So we learned about this long before Dr. Gundry was talking about this and promoting this, the idea of avoiding bell peppers and jalapenos and eggplants and tomatoes because it causes or exacerbates arthritic conditions. What do you think about avoiding lectins or nightshades?
I think unless you don't have a reason to avoid them, you can enjoy them. I mean, I feel like my entire diet is like nightshades in the summer. I mean, I just had grilled eggplant for dinner last night. It was delicious. I think eating a ton of cooked tomatoes will be inflammatory, so maybe limiting cooked tomatoes to a couple times a week. But really, if God didn't give you a reason to avoid it, enjoy it. But if you have a severely active condition exacerbated by inflammation, such as arthritis, psoriasis, then I would say, sure, maybe avoid them. But again, look at the perspective. How many people don't eat nightshades and then they go and eat like a gluten-free cake filled with chemicals? I mean, let's look at the real problem here. I think lectins usually are not the biggest problem unless, again, you are severely ill.
So not long after culinary school, I was visiting my aunt and uncle in Maui. And my aunt was talking to me about how she was a little stiff and feeling like she was getting a little arthritis. And I mentioned to her, well, why don't you stop eating some nightshades for a few weeks and see how that makes you feel? And her response was, well, then life's not worth living. I love my salsa. I love adding bell peppers to my salads. Like, she's like, these to me are healthy foods. Why would I avoid eating foods that bring me so much joy for a little bit of physical relief? She's like, the payout's not worth it for me. And that really provided such great perspective for me, because, it's really easy, again, to get super rigid and dogmatic about your food choices. And that's not necessarily the answer.
It's true. Again, if you can enjoy your life while eating a bell pepper, then you should enjoy it. It's just the only reason I would consider not eating nightshades would be just if somebody's was in so much pain from arthritis that they really weren't enjoying their lives. So, a little bit of stiffness, she could take a hot bath. She could, try dry brushing. There's so many other things that she could do. So, but you also have to respect the fact that she knows what she wants. So many people, they're kind of lost. Like, it's like me and my coffee. Like, I love my morning coffee. I know it's bad for me, but life is short and full of pain. So I'm going to drink that coffee.
Yeah. And then you can experiment with coffees from different sources that, have
Cleaner
different
coffees.
mineral elements from it because it comes from different soil and,
Yeah, it's not all bad. And, sometimes I'll even have a matcha latte instead, but you just have to, find the balance. Life is all about balance. And, we're put in bodies to enjoy life. So as long as our bodies are clean and healthy and we can use them to experience the world around us, then we're fine.
Well, you have spent so much of your life really exploring health supportive modalities, such as like iridology, colon hydrotherapy, nutrition and health and cooking. What are you really into right now in the health and wellness or spiritual space? Anything that has really kind of piqued your curiosity?
Honestly, the gym. For years, I really only ate clean and like I was naturally fit because I did gymnastics as a kid. But as I'm getting older and riding horses more since the pandemic, like I've really noticed that I need to take care of my physical being. So I've been really into this Alexia Clark program. I mean, she's huge on social media if you haven't heard of her, but she uses a lot of like functional workouts with weightlifting and HIIT. And I feel like when I do that, it just kind of complements all the other stuff, because even when I did 2 colonics a week and ate nothing but juice and raw foods, when I really was behaving, I still had back pain. And since I started doing her program, like I don't have back pain because I'm actually more balanced and strong in the right places. So, and also exercise is cleansing in and of itself because it brings more oxygen into the body and stimulates the not only the muscles but the intestine to contract. So that's something I'm really into. I'd like to say I'm into the cold baths that everybody's doing right now, but I'm a chicken. So I'll just do my enema with the warm water for similar effect. But maybe one day.
Where do you turn to keep learning? So when you want to be inspired or you want to learn more about health and wellness or the culinary space or detoxing, is there any place that you turn to keep learning?
Yeah. That's a great question because I feel like I'm in a bit of a rut and I'd like to keep learning. So one place that I look is I really like Mike Perrine's blog, Everyday Detox, because he's just so authentically detox based. Like, that's my background, but because I've been trying to qualify for an ad network, I've been publishing lots of, popular content like cookie recipes and things like that, where he is just pure, unapologetically raw vegan. So I love listening to his stuff because it just reminds me of things I already know. And also I learn new things from him all the time. So that's one place I like to go to learn. And it's easy because he's on Instagram.
Yeah.
Another one, honestly, like Jacques Pepin.
What is it?
Jacques Pepin. this old French chef,
Yeah.
and he's not health-based or anything like that, but he's just like a 90 billion year old chef who's been cooking homemade fresh food since he was 5 years old. And whenever I watch his shows, I learn a new way to prepare something in a clean, healthy way. And I just love it. So like I could watch old episodes of Jacques Pan for hours and hours, and I'll learn things that, because he cooked with Julia Childs and like people that wouldn't think of as healthy at all, but because his food is so clean and like peasant style French food, you really learn quite a bit of how you can apply his culinary technique to health supportive recipes.
Is there anybody that you follow on Instagram or TikTok in the health and wellness space that we should check out?
Really, Mike Perrine. I mean, I'm not very big on social media and I'd like to follow more, but there's like the medical, and then so I follow some colonic accounts. I'd have to look up their names specifically, but really Mike Perrine is the main one I follow. And sometimes I like some Joe Rogan stuff. I find it interesting, for a different perspective, but I'm not going to lie. I've had very little time to deep dive, but I do need like a refresher.
All in good time.
Yeah, exactly. There's always new.
Yeah, maybe when we connect at the Tastemakers conference in Chicago. So
yeah, and you can give me like the 5 names that I need to dive into.
and I'll be looking for 5 names from you. So
yeah, I still like Fred Vichy. I mean, he's older, but his stuff is still good and he still comes out with new content. So I do like his information as well.
Well, where can people learn more about you and Eating Works and buy your spice blend? Share how people can connect with you.
Sure. So you can go to my blog, which is eatingworks.com. If you want to buy the spice blend, you just click on shop. It's right there. But there's a Maren tab. So if you care to read my not so exciting story, you can click on it and it kind of tells you how I got into this shit business and why. Then there's just tons of recipes on my website that are health supportive at all different levels, from the raw vegan, super clean, to somebody just learning how to eat gluten-free. So there's menu guides. There's just tons of information on there. And you could just email me or reach out to me on social media, and I'm happy to answer any questions. At Eating Works is my handle, and on Facebook and all the places. Not TikTok yet.
Yeah, and if you guys are listening and you really want some new juice recipes or some new soup recipes, definitely visit Eating Works. Maren's been juicing longer than anyone I know. So if someone's going to provide you with some guidance on new juice recipes so you aren't doing the same old, she's good to check out.
Thanks. Or even just email me and I'll give you a few different combos. But the truth with juice is I feel like you just need to find what you like.
Yeah, you had told me a recipe to do way back in the day that you had always recommended to college students that are on a budget. I think it was carrot, cabbage, and one other item.
It was just carrot and cabbage.
Just carrot and cabbage.
Yeah, it's cheap. It tastes good, and it's easy.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Maren. It was so nice to connect over Zoom, and I can't wait to see you in person soon.
Same too. I'm excited that we're both going to go to the Tastemakers conference.
I know, me too. And we'll be able to catch up and then find healthy, delicious food to eat in Chicago.
Thank you so much, Whitney. This was so much fun.
My pleasure. Chat with you soon.
Yes. Talk soon. Bye.